What's going on, everybody? I'm Scott. I'm the face behind Mysterious Planet, and this is our first episode of my new project called the UAP Sessions. I'm super excited about it. It's kind of like a podcast, but not really. It's meant to feel more relaxed. It's live, so whatever's said is said, and going to take some audience questions at the end. So I'm very excited about doing this. I have a guest today, awesome guest, the great Matt Laslo. Matt Laslo works on a page called Askapol UAPs. He does fantastic work, always badgering Congress for answers about UAP and what's going on politically in regards to that. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to bring Matt in. We're going to talk. We're going to answer some questions for you. So let me invite Mr. Laslo in. Let's see. And it's literally my go-to when I'm looking for news in regards to anything related to what's going on. It's Congress as regards to UAP. That's my go-to place. That's the first place I check when I log into X. He has a really big following on X, and that's where I go. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Fuck it all. I'm a swamp creature, so I'm miserable, but that's on me.
Well, man, it's awesome to have you on here, man. I got to tell you, I've been following your work. You are my go-to person. Like, if I'm looking for news on what's going on with Congress and UAPs, you're the first place I go. Especially when I get...
What does that say about today's media? If I'm the go-to, then the whole damn institution has failed.
Oh, hey, I mean,
turn down the media.
You're not wrong about that, man. You are not wrong about it. I mean, that's the thing. Mainstream media, I don't know. They won't touch the subject. They're afraid to touch the subject. And you, on the other hand, are the complete opposite. And that's what I love about going to your page. I mean, how did you even get into UAP journalism?
That's what I was just going to say. Like, my colleagues, shame on them. Because if you remember about this time, actually, I don't even, it's summer now. So no. It's been a busy year for the press corps. At the start of the year, like what? It was the start of 2023 when U.S. airspace was invaded by a balloon. And then, like, right after that, what did we have? We had the Air Force shoot down 3 different random objects or crafts. Why did the Air Force stop shooting things down above U.S. airspace? Not because the object stopped being there or the craft stopped being there, but they stopped shooting them down because the public got freaked out. And so, like, then what does the media do? Oh, just runs on to the next tweet or whatever they're covering. But it's like, guys, this is America's airspace, and we drop about $1 trillion of our taxpayer dollars annually, and we get invaded by a frickin' balloon? Shame on us.
It's terrible. It's really terrible. It really is. And, UAPs is a very niche subject when it comes to being a journalist. And what made you start looking at that and saying, hey, I got to report on this. I got to do this?
Well, so I was reporting on it during that, like, balloon invasion of 2023. And then if you remember, around then, there was a debate about declassification that was bipartisan initially. And you had, like, what, Senator Warner and Senator Cornyn. Warner, a Democrat from Virginia. At that point, he was chair of the Intel Committee. And then Cornyn, senior Republican from Texas. And they were saying, hey, there's a huge bipartisan problem here around D.C., like in the burbs, I guess. There's just warehouses of classified documents. Because of the Records Act, they have to, like, maintain physical records for every administration, blah, blah, blah. And so there's so much stuff in there that's classified that shouldn't be, just bipartisan. Like, everyone agrees it shouldn't be classified, and it should probably be digitized. So that debate was happening. And then, boom, Air Force shooting down stuff. People freaked out. And the Senate, I think at that time, they had 2 all-Senate classified briefings. Like, they have, like, 2 of those a year, usually. Like, they just had one the other day for what's happening in Israel and Iran. Like, it's rare. And so, like, everyone was kind of, like, amped up. Like, I'm a nerd, so I'm, like, got really into the classified debate. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Well, then David Grush, boom, drops his allegations, like a hammer on Congress, and that was that May. And so, because I'm a magazine writer and like contributor at Wired and stuff, like magazines are always going to be slow. So like everyone and their mother and brother had written a story on, this UAP whistleblower, David Grush. And so the only angle I really saw left was a beautiful angle, according to me, not according to the UAP community, because we kind of explored Grush through the lens of this conspiratorial Congress. Like everyone's looking at fluoride in water, which, hey, I'm game for that debate, but like, yeah, I don't know if Uncle Sam's like really trying to do mind control from the water guys, and then like, oh, January 6th deniers, blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, guys, this is my doorstop from the Senate Radio TV gallery from January 6th. Like, this became my shank that day. Because, yeah, I was going to take someone out with that. It's like, yeah, stuff happened, y'all. And so, like, it put Grush in the context of this conspiratorial Congress. And initially, everyone in the UAP community, like, hundreds of people were just like, railing on me, like, what is this? Like, blah, blah, blah. Are you rolling your eyes at this subject? And I'm pretty sure, I need to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure it was Dean Johnson who literally just, like, took my voice out of my own piece. And he was like, hey, I don't know who the heck this reporter is, but he's got, like, 9 different senators and Congress people talking about our issues. And he's like, this has never happened. And, like, right. In the past, I've been retweeted by like AOC to her millions of followers. Been retweeted by Matt Gaetz to his like 4 million followers. You never really see a bump in followership, This time, I literally got like 2,000-3,000 new followers. Like once, I'm pretty sure it was Dean Johnson. Once, my voice was stripped out, and it was just my access to lawmakers. Then, like literally 2,000-3,000 people followed me. And I had, for years, I owned the URL, Ask a Poll, and I was like, all right, I'm going to deploy it for this community, and let's see if, and I call it the unnewsed, which is why Ask a Poll, we also do, UAPs, but then crypto, drug policy, AI, but like crypto, UAPs, drug policy, Congress doesn't care about those issues. And like, I look back at the 2024 election, a lot of my Democratic peers or, Democratic lawmakers look at 2024 and they're crying, blah, blah, blah. They're wailing. My conservative family's like, MAGA, wail. And I look at 2024 and I think about the 90 million some odd Americans of voting age, legal status, who looked at their options and said, nope, Washington doesn't talk about anything that matters to me and mine. And that like came right after the FTX collapse, where you had billions of dollars in savings taken from the economy, and Congress still hasn't done anything. I guess they finally passed a stablecoin bill, but like this is real world issues, and like seeing all of New Jersey and the East Coast flip out. Yeah, rightfully so, because your airspace was invaded and your government has no freaking idea what it is. And so the unused, come to Ask a Poll. We're here for you. We want the rejects, because I live in a town of rejects. They're just on TV a lot.
I mean, it's really, the thing is, like, mainstream media won't touch it. And for people who want to know what's going on, like as far as like, Congress and the movement towards disclosure or whatever is going on, there's nowhere to go. But you have
Ask a Poll.
Like
us, and then News Nation a little bit. Joe, I think his name's Khalil. He's great, and actually because we have no real competition, him and I like share information. And like when he couldn't make it to the last classified skiff briefing, I was like, here, I sent him what I got. And so like, I literally wish there was competition in this space. And like every once in a while, like when Grush testified May 2023, or pardon me, I think July 2023. No, maybe June 16th. I don't know. I should stop trying to be precise because I'm exhausted. But when Grush testified, like literally that line wrapped around like 2, 3 different hallways. And like, I've been covering Congress 19 years. I was there for like the MLB steroid scandal where you had McGuire, Sosa, like all these big jacked up and juiced arms and all the paparazzi that comes with them. Like there was more coverage for the UFO, UAP testimony from Grush than there was for anything else. And like that really kind of woke lawmakers up. But then when it comes to the media, even though Congress really got woken up by that, like leaving it, Congresswoman AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, progressive Jamie Raskin, Democrat who led some of the one of the Trump impeachment hearings, those two, and then all these Freedom Caucus folks from like the far right, and then even moderate Republicans like Nancy Mace, like everyone who left that hearing from Grush left with a million questions, and they're like, all right, he seems trustworthy. What's the word they use? He seems credible. That's the word. Credible, and we want to hear from him in the skip. Right. Like, it took them, and like so much feet dragging and all that, it took them like months and months to even get him in a skip. And so like the attention went away, and then like Matt Gaetz farted, so the media like went and covered that for a minute and like just forgot about it. But I'm like, the issues haven't gone away, and David Grush threw in Congress's lap a really big FU, because he was like, hey, there are 2 claims. One was, hey, there's crafts and biologics that the government has recovered. I'm like, cool. That's either provable or it's not. You know, it's either there or it's not. Someone else, Wall Street Journal, they can have that one. But Grush's second claim was the one that really woke up this constitutional buff. Oh, you can't see it. So it's my little pocket constitution. But literally, Grush is like, hey, Congress, there are these SAPs, or special access programs, in the executive branch. So, like, funded by you, Congress, but hidden from you. And I'm like, whoa. Stop the presses. He's literally, and like to this day, Congress hasn't disproven Grush.
No.
Grush, who's now a congressional staffer. And it's like, guys, if you think this is BS, just disprove Grush. Like, literally, disprove him. And then I won't have to keep asking you these annoying questions, Senator Warner. You don't have to keep rolling your eyes and trying to avoid me. Just disprove him. Or let's talk about why you can't disprove him.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. They haven't disproven him, and I don't think they can. I don't think they can. You've talked to a lot of folks in Congress on the record and maybe off the record. Do you get the vibe that they do know more than they're letting the public know?
This is the thing, and you can still hear me?
Yeah, you're sideways, though, on my screen.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to get...
You're good.
Yeah, I'm having to do it from my phone instead of my screens. But, no. And here's the thing about Congress. And like Congress is many things, as I learned from one of my professors where I teach at Johns Hopkins, our MA program. One of my professors, Doug Harris, what he always taught us is Congress is both an it and a they.
Right.
And so Congress is can be everything, can be nothing. And so I think that's what I meant to say earlier. So after Grush's claims, then I was like, all right. And so I went and asked each 100 U.S. senators about his claims to their face. And like in going through that process, you kind of learned like, okay, like what? Senator Rich from Idaho, who I believe is or was chair of Senate Foreign Relations Committee. What did he tell us for Ask a Poll? He said, I don't read UFO stories. Okay, sir. So did you not read anything about the invasion of U.S. airspace over New Jersey? Because December 2024, we had testimony in the House, or maybe it was November. We had testimony in the House from the FBI, Border Patrol, and Department of Justice that they had no idea what was over U.S. airspace. Secretary Mayorkas, then the head of DHS, had a classified call with the Jersey delegation. So Senator Booker, now Senator Andy Kim, Republican Congressman Chris Smith, and he said, "We have no idea what's above U.S. airspace." And so it's like, okay, something is happening here that is just like beyond this Congress. And so that's where you have these little pockets of information. And like the weird thing about this Congress, the 119th Congress, is that it almost feels like UAPs have now been like put back on the shelf. You know, like they came out, there's like, I guess 3 public hearings in the 118th Congress, because we had 2 in the House, and then Senator Gillibrand had that one in the Senate.
Right.
And so like, that's a lot. And then this Congress, like a couple of weeks ago, I just asked Senate Intel member from a southwestern state where there's like sightings all the time, and I asked him about it, and he just didn't want to say any words because now he knows Ask a Poll. He knows, like I'm always recording, bro.
Right.
And so he's just like looking at me like, I cover serious topics. I don't cover this issue. And so that's where I'm like, no, sir. Like, let's have a conversation about UAS. So let's have a conversation about drones. Because, like, we know what the government does. And, like, I studied philosophical hermeneutics in my undergrad. I'm like, you guys are just playing with language. And, like, it was pretty obvious when you went from, like, UFO to UAP. And, like, last I checked, there's 2 different definitions of UAP in the federal government. There's one that DNI office uses, and then there's a separate one that NASA has. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're trying to confuse us. And so, like, but they're not good at it. And so, with all the pressure and like, so yeah, anytime this Congress I ask about UAPs, UFOs, I get eye rolls. Unless it's maybe talking to Luna or Burleson. But so there's just been a mood change. And so that's where I've just been like changing my terminology, because like nothing has changed here in the real world. Things have just changed within the Marvel confines of this other universe, which is your Congress. And so I'm curious why that happened. I don't think I'm totally to blame, but maybe I'm a little bit to blame, because I think lawmakers don't like being asked about their own dereliction of duty. But that's why I fucking love asking them about said dereliction of duty. And so, yeah, there's been this terminology change. And so it seems like also with the changing of the guard, and now with Trump back in the White House, because you have a handful of these Freedom Caucus, more far-right members, more MAGA, proudly MAGA. Not saying that is a curse word like Dems try to say it, but like those MAGA elements, like Luna, she's like, hey, I've got a direct line to Tulsi Gabbard, who's director of national intelligence. So they've been a little quiet, and it seems like in their mind they're hoping for a big buildup, which they actually kind of got last month, I believe, when they finally, after getting Grush on staff, like, 2 weeks later, they, after 2 years of their investigation going nowhere, like them not even being able to interview Grush, who's now been hired by them, but they go to the FBI and get this private briefing from the FBI's UFO unit, which they, after 2 years of investigating, they didn't even know that existed, which blows my mind. And that is not because they weren't trying. It's just the system is geared for, like in Washington, we call it silos. But what do you put in silos? Right. Secrets. And so, like, there's just all these secretive, different enclaves, or whatever you want to call it, that the issue it has been just hiding in plain sight. And so it seems like the UAP caucus, which kind of transformed and evolved into the Secrets Task Force, it seems like they're still engaged on it. But I think because they became the Secrets Task Force, investigating JFK, Epstein, MLK, RFK Jr., COVID origins, frickin' 9/11, like, oh, did Dick Cheney implode the towers himself? Guys, your government is so inept, I don't think they could bring down a house unless they had a big bomb, because we're good with bombs. We're like, I don't think that was an inside job. I think we're just dipshits, which is why we allowed fucking planes to hit our goddamn buildings. Sorry, I digress. But so with that, I think we are seeing this Congress kind of like learn as they go. And on the Senate side, they've learned don't engage. Like, we're senators, don't engage. A couple will. But on the House side, I think they almost got duped by Republican leadership, because like we're seeing this reporting here in the past couple days, which I need to like, the House is out this week. They gave themselves all week off for Juneteenth, like they fucking care about Juneteenth. No, they just wanted a vacation. And so I didn't have access to House members this week, but I forget who was making the allegation that Knapp or someone is reporting out now that it wasn't the Pentagon or CIA or FBI who restricted the UAP caucus from certain access and learning about different classified SAPs, those special access programs. The new reporting is that it was actually Republican leadership, which means Speaker Johnson and then potentially Oversight Chair James Comer, is that they are the ones who were blocking the UAP caucus. I've got to feel that out, but you kind of had that feeling from UAP caucus members. But I'm like, okay, if that proves true, which, like, if you remember the night before David Grush's testimony in 2023, the co-chairs of the UAP caucus, Burchett and Luna, they were pissed to heartbroken, because that's when they learned that they weren't going to be chairing their own hearing that they spearheaded. And so, like, you had Republican leadership kind of working and pulling strings in the background. Well, so if the same Republican leaders who were set up a lot of hurdles and roadblocks to the Grush testimony, and then to giving UAP caucus and just oversight members access to SCIFs and, smart brains from the executive branch inside the SCIFs, because access to a SCIF is one thing, getting something out of it is another. And so if those same Republican leaders just turn a switch overnight and now take you from investigating one thing that they don't care about and that they tried to stymie, to then putting you in charge of every fucking secret that's ever been known, like any conspiracy that's ever been known to Americans, like, I think maybe that's because they want to make you a joke.
Right.
And so I think that's like the few senators who even know there's a secrets task force, when they learn about it, they just roll their eyes. And like what Senator Mike Rounds from South Dakota told me is, he's like, you can listen to the interview yourself at askapolluaps.com, but Rounds, he's like, no, it's good to keep them busy. We want them busy so they're not causing trouble. And I'm like, bro, I don't think you were supposed to say that out loud. But he literally, just me describing it, he heard the playbook that it seems like Speaker Johnson and Oversight Chair Comer have successfully deployed to totally neuter what was a strong UAP caucus in the 118th Congress is now a laughingstock here in the 119th Congress.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible. I have noticed that decline. It's just, it doesn't seem like the emphasis is there as it was in the previous Congress. And the reason why I asked if you feel like they know more than they're letting on to is because I think they obviously get briefed by like whistleblowers and stuff that doesn't, that stuff doesn't necessarily make it out to the public in skiffs and whatnot. But after I was at the last hearing that they had in December or November 13th, I think it was.
That was the next one.
Right. Yeah. So I was at that hearing, and then I was afterward, the UAPDF had like an after event, and I was helping them out. I was volunteering at their event, and I was helping them at their, and then.
Sorry, I missed it. Y'all always invite me, and I'm like, guys, if you're in town because there's news, just like my ex-wife, you're not going to see me.
Right.
I work a lot.
I'm sure you do. So I was at the UAPDF event, and then after the event, I was packing up my bag to leave, and Rep. Burleson was in the hallway outside of the room, and he was talking to someone. I don't know who it was that he was talking to. And I was just packing up my backpack, and as I was packing up my bag, I just can overhear their conversation, and I hear Burleson explain to her what an alien hybridization program was. And I was,
wait, one more time?
Like, he was explaining to this lady what an alien hybridization program was. And I was like, hold up, like I'm actually hearing this from I'm hearing alien hybridization program from Burleson right now. So, and he didn't seem like, it wasn't like he was telling her like this is what's happening. Like, it was just kind of like he was explaining to her the concept of that. And I was like, what is
very Burleson?
Like, what is making him talk about this? Like, what did he hear that he feels like he's talking, like he needs to talk about this to somebody?
See, and this is the funny thing specifically about Burleson.
Right.
And I love it because, like, I'm a political communications professor. And so, like, I've trained Trump press secretaries in the same room where I've trained, raging progressive, like executive leadership, big organizations that, first day of class, I always let them get confused on why this quasi-hipster weird dude with arm tats is like at the front of the classroom. And then once they're all like kind of settled, then I go slam the door shut and I say, your fucking politics, stay out there. We're here to talk about history and practice and all that. And so Burleson, God bless him, he literally does what I train his comms team to like keep him from doing. Because like I say, my job as a political reporter is to get lawmakers to fuck up and tell me what they're actually thinking. Because they're trained to not say their actual thoughts. And I'm like, no. There's nothing gotcha. I just want to know what you think. And so, like, with Burleson, I'm like, in a past life, I studied to be a pastor. And so, like, when we had Burleson on one of our live listening sessions at Ask a Poll, he was starting to get into, like, potential, like, biblical passages that, like, may or may not deal with, like, extraterrestrial things or above. And, like, he's just thought about this and other stuff from, like, so many different interesting angles. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't smoke weed. But I'm like, man. And I think I even invited him on the live listening session. I was like, bro, come over anytime. Let's fucking get high. And let's just hear all your thoughts on all this stuff. But that's where he's talked about, like, propulsion.
Right.
And so he talked about that after leaving one of the skip briefings. And, he just said it. And then, like, I just reported, like, Ask a Poll is just our raw interviews and then transcript of them. And so, like, then when I followed up, he's like, no, they didn't talk about it in there. He's just like, that just feels like the natural progression of stuff. And it's like, wait, are you confirming, like, what you're asking? And so with him, and then in another one, he was just on podcast last month, I believe, where he was talking about how yeah, some of this stuff adds up to maybe we're in a simulation. And it's like I've never, again, covering Congress 20 years and tech focus for Wired magazine. I teach on new media. Like I've never heard a Congress person like literally contemplate that. Yeah, there's a possibility this is all a simulation, which
Crazy.
is insane, and also kind of like makes me ecstatic on one level, on like the same level where his comm staff is opposite, like freaking out, saying shut up, do not say what comes to your mind. But I'm like, keep telling us, bro, keep telling us. But yeah, you go,
Yeah, I was
brother.
gonna say, I mean, it's crazy because we live in an interesting time
Yeah,
where this stuff is being talked about in political circles. Like, there's no time in history, maybe back like right after Roswell, it was kind of talked about a bit, but there's no other time in history where this was such a big thing and politically. And the crazy thing is, as much as they talk about it now in like Congress, especially the previous Congress, the general public still is not paying attention, which is
yeah.
insane to me. Like I don't know what it takes to get the general population to just like wake up and like, look, even your government is talking about this.
So that's where I'll be critical of me and my industry first. Like, I think the failure of us in the media to sustain attention on this and then to frame it properly. And like, I know with this latest Wall Street Journal report, everyone's kind of like flipping out on them. Guys, I got to say, Wall Street Journal, like one of their A1 feature writers, was one of my mentors. This guy, Paul Glader, now teaches up in some school in New York. But he like literally would be given 2-3 months. Like his beat was the mineral and mining beat. So he was based out of Pittsburgh, but he'd be flown to like China, and he would just like spend months just like doing deep dives on all the minerals that enable us to have our smartphones, blah blah blah. And so like Wall Street Journal, and actually, so like my first week on the Hill 2 decades ago, I was being trained by a current Fox News producer, but then it was NPR, this guy Chad Program, and he's from Ohio, and we're walking into what's called a pen and pad, where there's no cameras allowed, but you just like talk with leadership, not off the record, just without cameras, so more casual and more cursing and, just
Right.
more of us being us. And on the way in, I'm like, hey, Chad, who's this guy Boner? And he goes, that's John Boehner. And in that meeting, at the end, like there's this one guy who I'm like, we're leaving, and I go, Chad, does that guy work for like MSNBC? Like, who was that? And it was Dave Rogers, who was at the time Wall Street Journal. And like, I thought he was the most liberal reporter ever because he was just a hard-nosed political reporter. So like, yeah, it's owned by Murdoch and company, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, there's been transitions and their op-ed page is different, but who the fuck reads op-eds anyway? Even though I'm also an op-ed writer.
Right.
And under my professor cap. And so that's where like Wall Street Journal's been getting knocked for this, but Wall Street Journal, in that piece, they talk to 2 dozen or more than 2 dozen people. I have no doubt in my mind that they did. And to me, that raises questions. Like, there are a sizable, and I think even like what I wonder is, oh, all right, what are these silos within the executive branch? Because, like what, Arrow, their mind, like their collective mind as a unit is only ever going to be as powerful and as informed as the top brass of the Pentagon allows them to be. So like they're neutered and they're like, I don't know if we're allowed to say this these days, like they're gimps from like day one. Like they're powerless. Kind of the same as the Secrets Task Force in the House. Because literally, Secret Task Force doesn't have subpoena power. They don't have their own budget. So anything Secret Task Force does has to be approved by Daddy James Comer. And so kind of the same thing with the Pentagon, or with Arrow. Anything Arrow does has to be approved by the top brass. So they're only ever going to see what they're allowed to see. And so when it comes to this stuff, it just, I wonder how much these folks know or don't know, and how much they're allowed to know or not know in all these competing silos. And that's where I think we just need like persistent spotlighting of these issues, because like this isn't just theoretical in the distance, like blah blah blah. Now, because we all got phones and all that, and because we're, I believe, according to reports, like we're seeing a large uptick, at least according to U.S. senators who hate talking about this issue, but who readily complain, like say when Langley Air Force Base is shut down for 17 days. And last December, Senators Kane and Warner both were so pissed coming out of a Pentagon briefing, classified briefing, and they're like, we know kind of like when we're getting run around, like we're not getting lied to, but we know when we're getting the run around. They're like, a year out of the Langley intrusion that caused our fifth generation fighter fleet, the Raptors, to be moved for 17 days. And I did the math. Langley Air Force Base is 200 miles from D.C., so it usually takes like 2-3 hours via car. But if you're in a Raptor, it's 30 minutes. So like that Raptor fleet is a part of the protection of the President of the United States and the U.S. government. And so like we had one of our key military units for the protection of our capital rendered useless for 17 days. And what did the Pentagon do after that? According to Warner and Kane, they still have no idea what those craft were, where they came from, blah, blah, blah. What did the Pentagon do? Our $1 trillion a year Pentagon. They bought nets. So now our $1 billion Raptor fleet is covered with nets, because that's gonna hide you. Like, guys, talk to the widows of Ukraine soldiers, like hiding from drones or hiding from flying craft underneath whatever does not work. And so whatever these things are, they are steadily intruding U.S. airspace over very interesting spots, like nuclear facilities, like key military bases, like in Jersey, where the incursions were. Two of those spots, the main spots of the incursions from this past fall and winter, they were over munitions depots where we're literally building missiles to either give to Ukraine or give to Israel, or maybe pop off ourselves. But like, those are active military munitions factories. And then there was one other spot in Jersey where they had a lot of activity of craft that they didn't know. It was over the current president's golf course.
Yep.
He was running for president at the time, but like over Bedminster and then over two munitions depots is where we had the most incursions that at the time DHS had no idea what they were. FAA had no idea what they were. Like, if they suddenly got all this new information, like, hey, and I've actually been pressing Luna and Burleson and them. I'm like, guys, there was a classified call, which I said Askapol were the only ones to report on it. But like, you guys all tried to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. He had a classified call with Jersey's congressional delegation. That call, he was at direct odds with what President Trump and his White House is saying. So I'm like, hey, y'all should bring Mayorkas in, and hey, let's just hash it out, because someone's lying. And yeah, I don't necessarily want to force Mayorkas or anyone else to be in that hot seat, But I'm like, no, 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 no. Someone here is lying, and what we know is we have this sycophants or whatever. It's hyper-tribalistic political environment. People are just getting passes, just like Democrats gave Biden a pass. Throughout his administration, Republicans are now giving Trump a pass. And it's like, okay, use access you have to Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, use the access you have to Marco Rubio, Secretary of State now, who, when he was last in Congress, just a few weeks ago, or maybe months ago, he was chair of the Senate Intel Committee.
Yeah.
Last Congress, he was vice chair. Well, Rubio knows about these issues. And so, like, I get it when they say, like, no, like, the administration is working with us. So I'm like, okay, there might be stuff happening back channel, but I'm like, no, stop having these JFK hearings, stop having these Epstein hearings. Well, have a real Epstein hearing, because I want to talk about the Bill Clinton pick with Epstein as much as I want to talk about the Trump pick with Epstein.
Right.
Like, I live in a world, as a political reporter, I live in a world where both Hillary Clinton and Trump could be in jails, like jail cells next to each other. Like, they're politicians. I lock them all up. Like, come on, wake up, America. Lock all these corrupt assholes up. And so that's where we're seeing that partisanship kind of creep into this issue, but it's also maintained its independence as still kind of like the most nonpartisan issue on the Hill, and potentially kind of the only, well, maybe cannabis a little bit. But yeah, that's where all the focus right now is on Trump's one big beautiful bill and all that. So that has sucked a lot of the air out of this town. But I'm curious if we're going to see, because remember, UAP caucus, they were asking for a select committee.
Right.
And so, like, they wanted to have a committee purely devoted to UAPs. And what, we're 6 months in and we haven't even seen a hearing? Right. You know, and like, some of those members are a little frustrated by that. But I'm like, no, if you're frustrated, you're in power. Fucking change that. Like, you're the only person with power to change it.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on, why they're dragging their feet on it so much. I don't know if they're getting some type of outside pressure to not move forward with some of this stuff, but it's kind of ridiculous.
I don't think I think, and this is a theory of mine,
right?
But like, UAP community, like, there's no wealth there. You know, it's not like financial services where like your audience can like write you big checks. Right. And so like, I'm curious. Well, because here's one thing. Chair of the Secrets Task Force, Anna Paulina Luna, in the last Congress, we had live listening sessions with Burchett, Burleson, and then Burchett again. Then reached out to Luna, like just into 2024, like January 2024. And her staff, their response was so telling, because it wasn't, no, she'll never talk about this issue. No, she won't talk about this issue till the next Congress. And so it was literally like, wait, why? Like, you think this issue is tainted? I'm like, yeah, from a political comms perspective, I could see different candidates using this as a bludgeon or blah, 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 like painting someone as like conspiratorial idiot. Or I could see that comms person making this a brilliant fucking mountain to stand on, because literally American airspace is being invaded daily, according to the most senior intel members of the U.S. Senate. Like, they just recognize that as a fact. Same with our Secretary of State. Because what did Secretary of State Rubio tell me about Grush? He said David Grush was the first. He's like, we get whistleblower complaints all the time at the Intel Committee. He said Grush is the first one that the IG reviewed, said this looks plausible, like, well, you guys should investigate this, and then sent it to them also marked urgent. He said those two things never happen. He's like, yeah, there's hundreds of complaints. They never, or like whistleblower complaints, they never rise to that level. And so that's our Secretary of State. And so I think that's where us, not in the media, but like us and me in the media, you guys, keep that pressure up, because it's easy for them to forget about these issues. But like, Americans are freaked out, and more so, and like, yeah, God bless you, everyday Americans, like when base commanders or captains of ships, like off the Jersey coast, this Congressman Chris Smith, a Republican, he always brings this up, and we just actually talked about this last week. There's a 47-foot Coast Guard ship off Jersey's coast, just patrolling. What he says, and what that Coast Guard captain says, is that between 12 and 30 different craft, they might use the word drone, but between 12 and 30 different craft follow this ship. There's a huge discrepancy between 12 and 30. Like, why? Yeah, like, why are these Coast Guard, soldiers on this 47-foot, like, that's a large vessel. Why are these soldiers, because numerous of them on the deck witnessing this and below deck looking at sonar and blah, 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 and video footage, like, what was wrong with that unit or that entire ship that they don't know the difference between 12 and 30? Or maybe those experts, those like key essential parts of our military, maybe they were seeing and were inundated with something that they don't have the knowledge or words to express, and they don't have the technology. Because like, how can you not, like, think about it? Wait, that ship has to have video cameras everywhere. Like, how can you not go back, look at those videos and be like, oh, it was 24. We have an exact number. I'm like, yeah, I know they say, oh, video tells the truth. No. All video lies. All pictures lie. But with that, you think they would be able to get it a lot more exact than 12 to 30. I think, like, what that just screams to me is, like, we are dealing with technology that is going way over the heads of our best and brightest in their various fields, whether it's law enforcement or whether it's base commanders in Nevada, California, Montana, or Virginia, or whether it's, Coast Guard captains off our shores, like, let alone what we're hearing from all these pilots. So yeah, that's where, like, it seems like this could become a winnable issue. And like, I get it why lawmakers don't want to be attached to like the little green man trope. But I'm like, you guys have the power to change that narrative. Like, fuck the little green man shit. Like, that was 70s, that was 80s, that was X-Files. Like, no, you all need to think smarter and use your words better, because we are dealing with something new. And like, even for all those lawmakers, like, what, Senator Rounds, he's 100% convinced. Pardon me. So yeah, Rounds is convinced of this. But Senator Mark Kelly, former astronaut, he is 100% convinced that these, there's nothing UFO, UAP to worry about. That makes him 1,000% convinced that daily American airspace is being invaded by what he views as our foes. So he's 100% convinced that China, Iran, North Korea are the ones flying, like shutting down Langley for 17 days. Like, sir, if that's what you believe, why the hell are you talking about anything else?
Exactly.
Except for the fact that we lost control of U.S. airspace.
Yeah.
To our foes. Like, and what do we see in like this one big beautiful bill? They're fighting for $100 billion more for the military. Cool, but not for
Right.
like drones or new tech. They're fighting for more ships, and I'm like, guys, if you do think this is just drones, then hey, and this now comes up often with lawmakers. They're bringing up Chinese
Right.
New Year with the thousands of drones that they're flying. Like, guys, literally, if you just arm 50 of those drones and have them go to 50 different, or actually 25 different spots on a ship, well, our $1 billion nuclear ships are done. Like, we are sitting here naked. And
Right.
yeah, media has moved on. Congress doesn't want to talk about it, and it's like, shame on you all. Because whether this is extraterrestrial or whether it's our fucking like blood-ridden foes, where they like hate us, like we, they're squandering a lot of our taxpayer dollars. Um, I don't think we should let them ever forget about that.
No,
Uh,
I don't think we should either. I mean, this this is a good segue because let me ask you this. And pulling you away from you know, as a reporter, you're being very objective. Let me pull you into I want to hear your personal thoughts, your personal beliefs. What do you
I stopped.
think?
I stopped being a human long
What
ago.
do
But
you think
good try.
the UFO phenomena is? What do you think is going on?
Dude, it's like and it's hard for folks to understand this. Like, as political reporters, we get so desensitized. And I think, like, a good way, it's like bad on one level, but like what? My first tat is tabula rasa, blank slate. Like, I don't believe in objectivity anymore. Back when I was studying to be a pastor, I surely did. Sorry if I preached at you and told you you were going to hell, because actually, that was
Right.
me. I'm a motherfucker who's going to hell. Well, so, like, I don't believe in objectivity, but I think, like, my best attempt at being an objective reporter is to listen and to not really allow myself to get fully formed thoughts um, on certain issues. And, like, so I'm on the board of the Regional Reporters Association. And this guy, Joe Morton, who used to be our president,
Right.
he's now Dallas Morning News, but he used to be Omaha World Herald. And like Omaha, that's like conservative country. And so like he had covered this is like 5 or so years ago, pre Roe v. Wade being overturned. But he's like, I've covered abortion from like every angle, like 5 times a month for a decade. He's like, I'm so like just naturally and like not, and I understand like if you're an evangelical and you think that aborted tissue is a human life, then this can like sound very cold, but no. Like the other side of the debate says that's just tissue and blah blah blah, and so like he's covered it so much that he's just like I don't. He's like nothing in my being reacts one way or another. I just report what my delegation is saying,
Right.
and like that's where we just kind of naturally keep ourselves outside of. At least for me, like I don't even let myself. It's like I didn't even vote until 2016, and like I do op-eds under my professor cap,
Right.
and so like I was vocal about opposing Trump 1.0. First vote I ever cast was a vote against Trump, which I was public about, blah, blah, blah. Trump 2.0, that's different. And so, like, and I don't even think I voted this time around. I just, people are like, but wait. And I've like had dates here in D.C. where like the girl walked out because she's like, "You don't vote," blah blah blah. Like literally, that's happened. I think a couple times. But so like, and like, the big argument is like, "Oh, but you're losing your voice. This is democracy." Guys, I got a pretty big voice and a pretty big fucking platform. And like, if anything, I have an outsized role in all this. And so that's where, again, like, I think of my job as a political reporter is to get lawmakers on both sides to fuck up and tell me what they're actually thinking. Like, I'm so curious about like what's actually going on, and like my passion, whether right, left, or center, is to inform the public. And so like that you guys are empowered, and like people will read my stories, and even like for Ask a Poll, and actually like what after Trump won in 2016, what did I do? I got my own bureau, the Laslo Congressional Bureau. What did I do? I took my name out of it. We're now the LCB.
Right.
Because I'm like, what did CNN do after they lost 25% of their viewership after the 2022 midterms? You know what CNN did? They changed nothing. I'm like, the arrogance.
Right.
And so, like, these days, and this is what I'm trying to do with Ask a Poll, like, my job as a reporter is really to shut the fuck up and listen. And to me, that's not just listening to lawmakers left, right, and center. That's listening to the American people, especially those 90 million who saw their options and said, nope, neither of these parties means anything to my daily life. And so that's where I'm curious as hawk. See, I know not swear every once in a while. Like, I'm curious about these issues, and like the more I get into it, the more derelict of duty I see lawmakers as. So like, I'm passionate about holding up a mirror to like their utter dereliction of duty. I know like so many folks who follow us, and like this kind of the beautiful thing about the Ask a Poll UAP community, like in our subscriber chat, there's a ton of skeptics, and and there's a ton of true believers, and then there's a handful of people just in the middle, just like watching and trying to learn. And so like, I love all those perspectives, because what's the government good at doing? Confusing the fuck out of all of us. And so like, the more I get into it, the more I just see, my takeaways from covering this issue now for like 2-ish years is that the media sucks. Like, we're fired. Like, the Air Force shot down 3 objects in 3 different spots, and we don't even know what they were. Like, come on, New York Times, Washington Post, AP, like, you guys have huge units. Like, if that was just cellophane, or if that was just like another balloon, come on, show us that so I can stop doing these damn interviews on Friday nights. Like, but no, like, they have so much disrespect for the entire Northeast. When the entire Northeast is freaking out about all these sightings, and then like progressive Democrats, like I'm thinking Pallone, who's the chair of the Energy and Commerce Committee, New Jersey Democrat. You know what? He's the first time he's ever agreed 100% with Trump was when Trump and his administration, like first week and a half or whatever, they just dismissively are like, oh yeah, the drone issue, everything approved by the FAA. Pallone, raging progressive who hates all things Trump, he's like, yeah, that answers it. And I'm like, wait, sir, you need to go talk to your senators, Booker and Andy Kim, because they were actually, or no, and he was on the call with Mayorkas. He just got no answers from that call.
Right.
So once an answer, illogical and idiotic as it was, because Pallone, if you think about that, then that means Secretary Mayorkas lied to your face, which means you should get on that impeachment train that Republicans were pushing. Like, if a secretary lied to your face, whether you're a progressive Democrat or a far right winger, that person needs to go.
Right.
Because you cannot lie to Congress. And so that's where Pallone like twists himself into this idiotic unrepresentative. Like, his entire brand is different from how he treats this issue, you know?
Right.
And so there's just a laziness, and I kind of rack it up to just like an utter lack of curiosity.
Right.
And like, even curiosity at like what the administration's telling them, you know, competing administrations. Like, so it might be a fear of the issue, but I'm like, guys, 70% of the American public is like over this issue. You know, I think polls kind of show that they're like, yeah, of course there's stuff up there. Of course there's, like, humans aren't the only, Earth isn't the only spot with living species in the universe. I'm like, if you look at the James Webb Space Telescope, like, if you think, like my parents do, you know, 6,000-year creationists, God bless them. If you think the only intelligent life came from Noah's Ark, and my dad's got a lot of fossils to back up his theory, like really dope dinosaur eggs and skulls and shit that he uses to prove creationism. But I'm like, we can all become so blinded. Go look at the James Webb Space Telescope and like any little like conception we had of our universe a year or two ago. The James Webb Space Telescope just obliterated. And like, it's humbling as fuck.
It really is. It really is. To say there was only life out there is just statistically not even really. I mean, there has to be more out there. So, what do you think the UAP phenomena is? Do you think it's extraterrestrial, or do you think it's our own craft or foreign adversaries?
See, I like, again, my thoughts don't matter, but I'm pretty sure with this Congress, they're investigating numerous different theories. And so it's interesting to me, like when I'm interviewing someone like Mark Warner, who I respect, and who half the times he'll just flash me with his eyes. And this is why I'm pissed that there's restrictions on recording video like throughout the Capitol. You could do it in some spots, and then outside you can do it. But, you know, former Vice News Tonight correspondent, like, I just see a drastic change. Like, when a producer, a director, and, you know, 5 lights and 3 cameras come in, I get a different Mark Warner than I do when it's, like, just me and him. And so sometimes him and even, like, Heinrich, like, they'll just flash me their eyes, and they're just telling me, like, no. And, like, especially Warner, he's just like, no. What you're asking me, like, that's bullshit, but I can't say it because I go to jail if I say it out loud.
Right.
And so, like, half of what I do is try to navigate that space. And, like, what? Someone like AOC. AOC, like, what? One of the most photogenic, you know, like, social media, blah, 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 members of Congress. When she comes out of a skiff, she's got a brilliant, hard, fast role. No, not talking. Because literally every time they're in one of these classified skiffs, they sign away their life. If I disclose this information, you can toss me in jail. Like, not even a question. This is classified information. And I'm like, that's also why we get complaints from someone like Burchett and others being like, I can read a story in the New York Times in the morning, then go into a skiff and get a briefing on it, and then I can no longer talk about the New York Times story because I got the briefing in the skiff and I signed away my life. And so, like, what I do is I wait like a week or two. So I'll still, like, walk with AOC and others down the hall, trying to get as much as I can out of them. They're leaving the skiff. But what I always do is I circle back in a week, 2 weeks, and ask them questions based off the information I got from others, but I don't ask about it in the context of the skiff, and I just ask it. Like,
Right.
if y'all listen to Ask a Poll interviews, that's when the classified information comes out. It comes out of my mouth casually, casually, calmly, and I'm just like, hey, sitting around. Like, have you ever seen this like predictive generative AI that the U.S. government has? Like Matthew Brown's talking about. Like that's our latest
Right. Yep.
on the wait, what was it? It's a fun one. Non-human intelligence.
Oh, yes.
What? So that's our latest at Ask a Poll right now, and that's where like I'm slowly playing like five-dimensional chess with these lawmakers because like they know so much more than they're legally able to tell me. But like this is the power of Ask a Poll. Everyone like praises my questions, like oh blah blah blah. I come across as brilliant because of our subscribers, and like you all send me awesome questions and you keep the pressure up, and like there's a power to Ask a Poll in like our collective memory, and I think that's what's utterly lacking in the media. Like so like I have no idea what, if anything, I'll uncover. I just know Congress is going to stop looking if we stop asking.
Right.
And so I've got a million questions, and they've got five-ish pat answers. For now, we're working on them.
Man, dude, I really appreciate what you do. Like, what you do is so good for it's good for the UAP community so much because no one's going to ask these questions, and you use your platform to be able to speak for people and ask these questions. So I appreciate what you do.
So I do it like there's this selfishness in the beauty of Ask a Poll, which is like I'm the media, like I'm the enemy, like blah blah blah. Like yeah, after 19 years, I've been covering Congress longer than like 70-80% of lawmakers have actually been in Washington. But I am written off a lot. When I come to lawmakers with your questions, and I say, like, to Luna, if I'm like, hey, one of your constituents from Florida has this question, like, I cease to exist. And they're literally talking to a voter. And, like, there's just a beauty in that, where as cynical as I am about how fucked up this, like, non-democracy republic is, like, there's a power with you all. And Congress feels it. Yeah, that should make all y'all happy on one level or another.
It does, man. You're doing awesome work. You're really, really doing awesome work. Before we wrap this up, I just wanted to.
Well, I was gonna say you're doing awesome work too, because you, unlike most hosts, I like how you've asked 3-4 different ways, like very smoothly, trying to get my like actual opinion. And I'm sorry, I'm just like
it's all
lame. No, dude, but you're a master.
All right, so let's just we'll move on to the next thing. Yeah, man. No, I definitely appreciate that. Tell us where all everyone watching who watches in the replay, where can they find you?
Ask a Poll UAPs. For Ask a Poll, like we have crypto, Ask a Poll drugs, blah blah blah. But if you're listening to me here, you probably are into the Ask a Poll UAPs. So I guess we're now one of my former master students is now doing videos for us. So I guess Ask a Poll's now on TikTok, Reels, and YouTube. But my main hangout is still X, for better and for worse. But like we're also on Blue Sky. If you want to do a JD Vance and like go dabble in that. But no, like we're Substack based. So all those sites live at Substack. Just ask a poll, like ask a politician. So now my real night begins. This is my niece. She's a Vice News puppy, Mayhem.
Oh,
My baby.
oh, the dog's name is Mayhem? That's awesome.
Mayhem. Oh yeah. And it's Saru. Yeah. You guys want to go out? Want to go party?
That's awesome.
Now my Friday night's really gonna begin.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Hi, baby.
That's awesome.
This is the only way to survive in DC. Yeah. Puppies, because
okay, man.
Politicians.
Hey, so are you going? When is the next hearing? Do you know? I know last time I heard it was like going to be in July.
What Luna told us last is that, and this is interesting. So we don't have, bless you, baby. We don't have dates yet on the skiff briefings. But if you remember, and I kind of forgot about this, there was like a skiff briefing, or there was that main skiff briefing that was canceled in May because like Elizondo, like a handful of them got sick. Like it happened right after that fake or whatever, the dupe was out there. So like it makes utter sense to like political comms, Laslo, for them to like, I'll get sick, and I'm like, y'all should get better at coordinating that. I'm like, don't get sick all at once. Like, think of a better freaking excuse. So I think we're still going to have one, maybe two classified skiff briefings. We're like, us at Ask a Poll, we'll be out in the, me and my 3 summer interns will be out in the Marble Halls staking it out when they leave. But what Luna said is that between July 4th, because Congress, just like the House got this week off for Juneteenth, they give themselves the entire week off for July 4th, and then they take the traditional congressional recess, the summer recess in August off, because like, well, Washington was technically never a swamp. It gets really sticky and nasty here in August. So Congress historically takes that whole month off. And so it seems like Luna wants in between July 4th and August to have that public hearing. Stay tuned to Ask a Poll UAPs for latest. Like, we'll break that once we know it. Unless Joe Cahill at News Nation beats us. But he rarely does. Love that guy.
That's awesome. So they have the hearing. Did you go to the last one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you'll go to the next one, I'm assuming. Hopefully, I'll be there again.
What I always do is I listen to it on C-SPAN radio in my earbuds, and I'm out in the hall. So then after lawmakers ask their questions, I'm the first one to get them when they come out.
That's awesome.
That's method to my madness.
Smart. That's a smart move. I was at the last hearing, and the line's like massive, and somehow I got lucky enough to get the very last seat in the room. So I was
awesome.
Very lucky and grateful that I got that. So I'm hoping to go to the next one. I don't know if I'll get so lucky next time, but
make sure and say what's up.
Yeah, sure.
If you do make it.
Definitely will. All right, Matt. Thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it. I will put your contact information to your ex in the description, so anybody who watches the playback will be able to find you easily. And I do highly recommend that you do check out Matt's page because, like I said, all my UAP news in regard to Congress comes from him. So greatly appreciate what you're doing, Matt. Thank you for joining me today.
Comes from me and Mayhem.
Mayhem. Yes, thank you, Mayhem. All right, Matt.
Dude, have a good one.
Take care.